The moment you open Google Maps over the Peruvian desert, something strange happens. Your screen fills with lines, hundreds of them, perfectly straight, stretching for miles across a landscape that hasn't changed in over 2,000 years. We use satellites and GPS to map our world today. So here's the contradiction. Someone did the same thing without leaving the ground, without a view from above, without any known written language, any known blueprints, or any evidence of a trial and error process. The Nazca lines are one of archaeology's most unsettling puzzles. But here's where it gets truly strange. The most popular explanation you've heard, alien landing pads, isn't just unsupported, it actually avoids the real mystery. Because the truth about these lines is far more fascinating and far more disturbing than anything Hollywood has sold you. By the end of this documentary, you will never look at a drawing in the dirt the same way again. Think about the scale of what we're discussing. The Nazca Desert in southern Peru holds thousands of geoglyphs spread across nearly 400 square kilometers. That's larger than most modern cities. Some individual lines run for over 15 kilometers in a single, unbroken straight shot. Others form animal figures, a monkey, a hummingbird, a spider, a killer whale, each one over 100 meters long. And here's the problem. These figures are only recognizable from the air. From ground level, they look like random trenches. So how did an ancient civilization with no flight, no drafting technology, and no apparent surveying tools create designs that require an aerial perspective to even understand? Over the next few minutes, you will discover the real engineering behind the lines, the scientific contradictions that still have no answer, the one discovery that changed everything, and why modern archaeologists are now more confused than ever. Let's go to the desert. In 1927, Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Mejia Chespe stood on a hillside in the Nazca region. He wasn't looking for lines, he was surveying ancient irrigation systems. But when he looked down at the desert floor, he noticed something odd. Long, shallow trenches cut into the reddish-brown pebbles, revealing the lighter soil beneath. At first, he thought they were walking paths. Then, he kept walking, and the paths didn't stop. They continued for kilometers, crossing ravines, climbing low ridges, and maintaining absolute straightness. Mejia Chespe had just rediscovered what local people had known for centuries but never understood: the Nazca lines. But here's the problem. He couldn't see the shapes. From his ground-level position, the lines looked like random scratches. It wasn't until the 1930s, when commercial airlines began flying over the region, that pilots reported seeing primitive landing strips in the desert below. That's when the alien theory was born. Even today, the first reaction of most people seeing these lines from an airplane is to ask the same question: who built this and why? Let's get specific about what we're actually looking at. The Nazca lines are not painted. They are not raised structures. They are created by removing the dark iron oxide-coated pebbles from the desert surface, exposing the lighter calcium carbonate-rich soil underneath. The contrast is stark. The lines average about 30 centimeters in depth and up to 1 meter in width. But here's the engineering detail that stops modern surveyors cold. To create a straight line over 15 kilometers across uneven terrain, you need a reference system. You need sight lines. You need to correct for curvature, elevation changes, and natural obstacles. The Nazca people had none of those tools. Yet, the lines deviate less than 2 meters per kilometer. That's a margin of error of 0.2%. Modern engineers using GPS and laser-guided equipment routinely accept a margin of 1% for land surveys. Think about that. An ancient civilization with no iron tools, no pack animals, no wheeled vehicles, and no written language achieved a precision that would challenge a modern construction crew. So how did they do it? That question has haunted archaeology for nearly a century. In 1941, German mathematician and archaeologist Maria Raiche arrived in Nazca. She would spend the next 50 years of her life studying the lines.
Reich rejected the alien theory immediately. She argued that the Nazca people used simple wooden stakes and rope to create their designs, and she found evidence. Dozens of wooden posts driven into the ground at the ends of some lines. Some posts carbon dated to around 500 AD. Here's the logic. If you place a post at point A and another at point B, you can stretch a rope between them to create a straight line. Then you simply walk along the rope, removing stones as you go. Simple, right? But here's where it gets strange. This method works for short lines. It does not work for lines that cross ravines, climb hills, or extend beyond the horizon. Once the line passes over a rise, you lose sight of your reference post. The rope sags, the terrain shifts. Reich herself admitted that the method could not explain the long-distance precision. She suggested that the Nazca people might have used astronomical alignments, stars, sunsets, or moonrises to guide their lines. But when modern astronomers tested this theory using computer models, they found no consistent pattern. Some lines align with solstices, most do not. The astronomy theory collapsed. Now, imagine spending 50 years studying a mystery only to realize you haven't solved it. That was Maria Reich's final conclusion. The method remains unknown. Now let's talk about the figures, the biomorphs, the animal shapes that everyone associates with the Nazca lines. There are over 70 of them. The most famous is the hummingbird, 93 meters long. Its beak points directly at the sunrise on the winter solstice. The spider, 47 meters long. The details are so precise that biologists have identified it as a member of the genus Risinulae, a rare, blind, cave-dwelling spider found only in the Amazon rainforest. Think about this. The Nazca people lived in a coastal desert. They never saw this spider, but they carved its exact proportions into the earth. The monkey, 135 meters long. Its spiral tail matches the anatomy of the spider monkey, which also lives in the Amazon, over 400 kilometers away across the Andes. How did they know what these animals looked like? How did they scale them up to hundreds of meters while maintaining perfect proportions? Even today, creating a 135-meter-long drawing on flat ground requires a grid system, a scale model, and careful measurement. Doing it on uneven, rocky terrain without the ability to see your work from above is geometrically improbable. Archaeologists have attempted to replicate the process using the methods available to the Nazca people. Every single attempt has failed to produce a recognizable figure at full scale. The mystery is not that they did it. The mystery is that they did it without leaving any trace of how. Here is where the alien theory becomes not just wrong, but actively misleading. The idea that the Nazca lines were landing pads for extraterrestrial spacecraft was first proposed by Swiss author Erich von Däniken in his 1968 book, Chariots of the Gods. Von Däniken claimed that the flat, hard-packed surface of the Nazca Desert would have been an ideal runway. He pointed to the burned-looking rocks at the ends of some lines as evidence of rocket exhaust. But here's the problem. Every single one of his claims has been disproven. The burned rocks are naturally occurring iron oxide. The lines are too shallow to support any landing craft. And most importantly, the Nazca lines are not solid runways, they are trenches. A 30-centimeter deep trench would destroy any aircraft attempting to land on it. Furthermore, radar and ground-penetrating surveys have shown that the soil beneath the lines is loose and unstable. Even a small vehicle would sink. So why does the alien theory persist? Because it offers a simple answer to a complex question. But real archaeology doesn't work that way. The truth is always stranger, harder, and more interesting than fiction. And the truth of Nazca involves something far more human and far more unsettling. In the 1980s, American archaeologist Johann Reinhardt proposed a different explanation. He argued that the Nazca lines were not runways or astronomical calendars. They were ritual pathways, part of a religion centered on water and fertility. Here's the evidence. The Nazca region is one of the driest places on Earth. Some areas receive less than 4 millimeters of rain per year. The Nazca people survived through underground aquifers and small rivers, but droughts were common. Crop failures meant starvation. Reinhardt noticed that many of the lines converge on ceremonial sites located at the base of the Andes Mountains, where water flows down from melting snowcaps. His theory suggests that the Nazca people walked along these lines in religious processions, asking their gods for water. The animal figures represented spirits or clan symbols. The straight lines acted as pilgrimage routes. This theory is currently the most accepted among mainstream archaeologists, but it still does not explain the precision. You do not need sub-2-meter accuracy over 15 kilometers to walk a religious path. You do not need a spider found only in the Amazon rainforest. You do not need a hummingbird that aligns with the solstice. The ritual theory explains the purpose. It does not explain the method. And that is where the real mystery remains.
In 2015, researchers from Yamagata University in Japan made a breakthrough. Using high-resolution satellite imagery and machine learning algorithms, they discovered over 140 new geoglyphs in the Nazca Desert. Some of them were not visible from the air. They were so faint, so eroded, that only a computer could detect them. Among these new finds was something unexpected. Small geoglyphs, humanoid figures, decapitated heads, weapons, animals being hunted. These were not the massive, perfect biomorphs. They were smaller, cruder, and placed on hillsides visible from the valleys below. The Japanese team proposed a dual-purpose theory. The large figures were for the gods, visible only from the sky, to deities, not humans. The small figures were for people, visible from the ground. Tells you a story, marks a territory. This discovery changed everything. It suggested that the Nazca people had a sophisticated understanding of perspective. They knew exactly what could be seen from where, and they designed their geoglyphs accordingly. But here is the new question. If they understood perspective so well, did they have a way to see their work from above? A hot air balloon? A kite? A tower? There is no archaeological evidence for any of these, but there is also no evidence against them. The Nazca people left behind no written records, no drawings of their methods, no tools for surveying. They erased their own footsteps, and that silence is the most unsettling fact of all. So where does this leave us? You have just walked through one of archaeology's longest-running mysteries. The Nazca lines are real, they are measurable, they are undeniably precise, and they were built by human hands. But the knowledge behind them, the geometry, the surveying, the scaling, the perspective, appears to have no origin. It simply appears fully formed around 400 BC and disappears just as completely around 650 AD. Think about what that means. A civilization developed engineering capabilities that would not be seen again in South America until the Inca Empire, over 800 years later. And even the Inca, with their stone temples and mountain fortresses, never built anything like the Nazca lines. So here is the deeper idea. Human history is not a straight line. It is not a story of constant progress. Knowledge is lost. Technologies are forgotten. Civilizations rise, master something we cannot explain, and then collapse, taking their secrets with them. The Nazca lines are not evidence of aliens. They are evidence of us, of what we are capable of, and of what we can lose. That is the real mystery. Not whether someone landed from the stars, but whether we will ever understand the people who already walked this earth, before they disappeared, before their lines faded, before the desert took everything back. Where are you watching from today? And what do you think they were trying to tell us? Because the lines are still there, waiting, silent, perfectly straight, and completely unexplained.